I'm only 2 tracks in thus far to my presently early days first introduction to Chaos Magic, but I've had a good time thus far in the 2 tracks I've consulted, those being Emerge and Beneath Your Skin, and I hope for those of you who maybe have taken the journey with me, that it's been as fun of an experience for myself as it is for you. Because again, like I said, I'm still early on in my appreciation of this group, but I would imagine my familiarity and enjoyment is going to expand greatly over the next couple of weeks, if not days, perhaps. I'm going to go back in terms after I finish covering this track. I'm going to go consult the remainder of pieces off of the album Emerge, and perhaps any of the tracks that are existent on the remainder of albums that they've put out previous to this release. And I'd be very curious to expand my understanding of them. As I expand not only music coverage on this channel, it seems, not just in presence, and this has been a long ambition of mine, as I've said for a long time, in regards to the artistic ventures that I cover. Music for me very much is a dominant first passion. So being able to share in that joy with you and produce collaborative experiences in part where we can share in the experience of gauging works for ourselves on a first inclination, it's been wonderful, especially in what's happened thus far in progress to the current year. And I can already see in the future, faithfully on this point, as 2023 goes on, my original ambition is going to expand even beyond where I first thought it would. And I'm very excited for the future as it pertains to music-related coverage on this channel for many of the groups I've got lined up to cover. And Chaos Magic was the latest one thus far. But they've been great as well in terms of expanding, as I said, not only the presence of music on this channel, but the range of where the talent perhaps is discovered. And again, I love to concentrate attention on smaller name artists, and I say smaller name in reference to potency, because I look at perhaps Chaos Magic in comparison to other groups that may be more well established in names and years, and they have millions of followers and listens and views on their content, but Chaos Magic, at least from my understanding, based on the view counts of what I've seen, not only with some of their previous releases off of Merge, but also the viewing figures off this video, I'm looking at the YouTube release, it's currently sitting at 39,000 views. In my opinion, they deserve a lot more attention than that. Now, Emerge is currently sitting at 111, which is nice, 111,000, but I think this is a group that deserves much more amplification. I do hope, if this is possible, that me showcasing groups like Chaos Magic that might be lesser-known talents, perhaps, in the world. They're South American in terms of base, and that's not an avenue in terms of the metal scene that I've engaged with yet. I didn't necessarily think that when I started bringing music onto this channel that I'd be taking this globe-trotting adventure in a way. I started with America. You have to start somewhere, even though I had a familiarity with some European artists, and of course many of you know how much I love that metal space, and that was in fact how I found Katarina Nix. I've shared this story previously many times. It was through Mortemia, one man, if you're not familiar, gothic symphonic metal artist from Norway. Very talented, I highly recommend him. And his model for his solo releases, he's associated with many other groups as well, but for Mortemia projects, the basis of his model is bringing on a collaborative lead female vocalist. At least it's been women for the entirety of what I've covered thus far. And Katarina Nix was the final collaboration off of the Pandemic Pandemonium sessions. And she was a wonderful artist to get a first introduction for. I absolutely loved having that experience. I thought Adrenalize was a wonderful piece, and she is an extremely talented vocalist. And it's been great, as I said, to not only broaden out the range and geography of what I cover on this channel and name potency, but be like, hey, I've got South American artists on my playlist too. Again, as somebody who's relatively early on is venturing into that territory as well, and I did not realize they have a talented metal landscape. Chaos Magic is my first introduction. I'm excited to dig deeper. Maybe in the future on this channel I will. I've got many groups I've got to consult, many based on your recommendations from previous content as well. I'm taking all of those considerations into account. And if you're somebody who's familiarized with that particular landscape in South American metal or rock, if you have any recommendations, feel free to shoot some my way. I'll add them to the exhaustive list of groups I have to consult, but I don't mind doing it. I hope for some of you, though, again, I'm open to whatever angle you come from. If you wish to disclose it down below, I'd love to hear it. If you're familiarized with Chaos Magic, I'm sure maybe you're going to be excited to engage my first impression with this piece, because maybe you've heard it before. But perhaps for some of you, again, my goal is that in part of covering groups like Chaos Magic on this channel, and other groups as well that maybe have a higher name regard, that I forge paths for you to discover new talents that are perhaps unfamiliarized currently, but that you'll be leaping on immediately once you hear their music and first engage with it. And I do hope for some of you, you're going to have that experience with Chaos Magic. I think you will if you're into metal, symphonic metal. They're really talented, and Katarina Nix has, like I said, an extremely vivid vocal set. I'm very impressed with her talents and her range. Wonderful voice. God-given talent, you know when you hear it. Let's engage in the depth of night. Our third piece thus far, at least mine, in experience. But I'm easily game. The first two were great. I'm going to go ahead and consult the music video, and I have it pulled up right now. And if you're not familiar with how I format my videos in terms of music-related coverage, if this perhaps is a first introduction for you on that note as well, I try and provide every accommodation I can to suit listener tastes. And some people might prefer to read the lyrics along with the track as it proceeds forward. So rather than having you have to pull up another tab, you fit alongside perhaps what you're watching right now and listening to my thoughts on, and the track in a second, I will have the lyrics available on screen for you, and they will proceed along with the piece as it navigates its way through. All right, without further ado, I like to provide that convenience for you. Again, it makes the videos, number one, feel complete, but at least for me, because otherwise I'm like, I could do more with it, but I like to provide that provision for you, again, if you want to have an understanding for the message at a deeper level. All right, but let's add the music video and the song to our considerations. Here we go. Let's engage with this. And again, this is a first-time listener. Maybe for some of you, that's the same story as well. I think we'll have a good experience. My faith's been rewarded thus far with two really good pieces. Softer, like pop opening, okay. Electronic. Oh, I like the syncopated vocals, it's wonderful. Wonderful segue. Lit very well. Decorative presentation. I like the energy here. Wonderful vocal structure. I think it's got a good comparable rough energy to some of the previous works as well. I'm trying to figure out in my back of my mind, like, which one's the hardest thus far? This one's like the most electronic in energy. Each piece I've covered is distinct in its own way. I love listening to her sing. She has such a wonderful range, and the style of her delivery just really impresses me. Again, that natural frailty. This is a sweet line, too. There's a flame that burns for you and I. How romantic. And they play around that type of emotion in the previous releases as well. It's not a traditional bass line, I'm sure, for many of their works. Wonderful background touch. Nice receding. Great structure for the, especially for, I'm assuming, the ending verse. Yeah, it's a great rapping. I get like classic rock star vibes when I watch this, not just in the apparel choice of the stage and the video, but just in that voice. It's so wonderful. Good summing, I like that. Great delivery. really love how each piece has its own distinct flair. And again, like I said, I was trying to figure out in the back of my mind as I was playing which of these pieces thus far has been the hardest in energy. As a metalhead, and I've been for a number of years, that's what I gravitate to first in genre, though I keep an open door wherever talent might exist. And when it comes to different genres across the board, you oftentimes find artists that can be quite individualized. Even, Katarina Nix, of course, is a consideration in this group, but I'm going to speak more broadly of Chaos Magic as a whole. They have a very traditional entrance point for me when I listen to their music, especially if you're somebody that's familiarized with rock energy. It has I don't say this in any way to be derogatory. It has a typical construction that I feel is a good approach, right? For anybody who, again, has a general understanding of, a common... If you don't have a group, for example, that you're listening to that is intentionally wading into territory that's more experimental, and they're trying to go for more of a traditional rock, punk rock, metal type sound, I feel that Chaos Magic utilizes that quite well in the structure of their pieces, even though they do add, obviously, some individual qualities to each of their works. I felt that in sound, in regards to the 3 tracks I've covered thus far, maybe the album has even more tracks to speak to the individuality of where the artist goes creatively. I think Beneath Your Skin has the most traditional rock basis. This piece, again, like I said, there's a personality to each that's very specific. Emerge had a symphonic background as well, even though, again, it utilized a traditional metal sound, and this one as well had that basis. This one had a bit of electronic opener, with also a softer ballad structure too, which I thought was a great entrance, set the mood quite well, and you knew going in, like, you had a feeling, we're going to increase here, right? You can feel the momentum start to push that way, and you hear the energy start to assert itself more. And then it becomes like a classic punk rock song. It felt like a bit of a video I've seen other places, in terms of like the race car delivery, riding down the street. I mean, it has kind of there's not really a generalized story to it other than maybe the navigation of the lyrics, but it's just like a fun performance piece. And you can definitely tell that the band cares a lot about their craft. And I like seeing groups, again, that go all out in terms of that delivery. And I do feel that with this band, I can sense that love. Not only, it seems, in that one particular shot that I did notice, I didn't mention it at the time, but I did see the connection these 2 guitarists, had, at least in the moment. They're having fun. Again, you sense that energy that communicates quite well. So you're like, yeah, this group loves what they're doing. It makes a connection with the listener, even if maybe you weren't there in terms of watching the video in person. But the entrance, it gives you an added connection of reverence to the piece. You appreciate it a lot more. Katarina Nix's performance and her vocal delivery, she goes all out. And again, it impresses me in terms of where she hits in her range. There is a natural daintiness that I quite like. It has especially when you get to that higher inclination. And I don't know if it's, I don't want to assert attribution falsely if this isn't necessarily what I'm hearing. I haven't heard her speak in general. I've just heard her sing more. So I'd be curious to hear if that's maybe an accent coming through. Because, like I said, the daintiness to me adds this real fresh presence. And true, there are many artists that can, again, hit a much higher inclination in their voice. There are plenty of talented female lead vocalists in many rock and metal groups. I've covered quite a good range. In the course of Vortemia's collaborations, there's been so many. And some I haven't engaged with in terms of group enrollment yet, and I'm definitely looking to the future to do so. I'm always keeping that in my mind. Maybe just not every group I've sorted through. Again, many of you have given me a long list of recommendations of artists to look at. I'm engaging with every single one, or at least in consideration of what I cover. My list is always broadening quickly. But it's been great to get, again, as I said, or to fulfill a promise, right? Because I said a while back, it was my, at the time, goal to utilize Vortemia in the beginning. I give him all the credit in the world for many of the artists I engage with, because they're all first introductions to me, and if it weren't for him, I would not probably know about them to this day. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have known about Chaos Magic or Katarina Nix. So I'm very grateful for those collaborative models, and again, like I said, utilize them repeatedly. Sometimes you don't know where you find talent in the world, and there are smaller talents hiding out there that you just haven't necessarily had that connection forged for you yet. And I do hope, like I said, for some of you, I'm providing that doorway in, if I can. I really hope to. Because again, there's so many smaller name talents that deserve much higher recognition than they perhaps get. Many groups that have stuck with me that perhaps, again, in the consideration of who I'm around in the company of, in my personal life, some of the groups I listen to, in fact, I'd say 90% of them, put me in more of a niche space. I don't have many connections personally in regards to my music taste. In particular, I do gravitate towards the alternative, and even, in mainstream artists as well, there's not much connections. But I'm saying, like, in terms of higher regarded names. But in smaller voices, yeah, many of those groups get blank stares from recipients whenever I mention them. That's not always the case, though. And I didn't foresee this going in, but for many groups I've consulted, it's been great to meet many of you who have had long existent familiarity and relationships to many of these groups I've spotlighted. It's been great to engage with some of you and have connections forged where, again, I don't have that in my day-to-day life. But again, I gravitate personally towards the smaller names. And in my opinion, Chaos Magic is just an ever-great addition to an expanding library that quickly is filling up my phone. I'm running out of space like really fast, but I enjoy it. I love the experience of engaging again with fresh talents, and Chaos Magic has been, the free songs I covered thus far, quite impressive. And again, I think they're watching this video for the average rock fan. I think this is a great segue in for you. I think it delivers quite well on its own strength. It's got a very engaging presentation. It feels quite approachable. And you sense the passion from the artists. Again, that for me was a key takeaway. Just watching this, I like being able to get into the heart of the artist and to sense that devotion. Sometimes it comes through, and I feel that this video is a great testament to that. And I would love to hear if that's the same experience for many of you. Whatever angle you come from, like I said, some of you might be very familiarized with the name Chaos Magic, others this might be a fresh introduction. I'd love to hear if you wish to disclose it down below, what your standpoint is on the piece, and what angle you come from. I'm very much a fresh listener. Still very much in my early day stages, but I'm sure with time, that'll broaden out. So by the time you get maybe to something new from Chaos Magic, because as I said, I selected a good range of tracks, and I got many other groups to consult, so I won't be democratic in how I approach them. So while I'm like, I'd love to hear more from this group, I try to give an equal range, at the very least, to the best of my ability. But I want to be fair, and give a good coverage to different artists in terms of whatever they have to illustrate. And with Chaos Magic, these free tracks thus far have been great. And in the future, anything new releases, I consider the doorway open. And I cannot wait to engage with them again. And I can't wait to engage with them myself, further in terms of going through their past library and deepening my present love for them that's evolved with only free tracks. But I can't wait to dive in deeper and to get more familiarized for myself with Chaos Magic. And I hope for many of you, that'll be the same takeaway from this video. I really do hope that, again, if I can, my channel is forging those paths for you in the music that I explore to gauge with new artists out there. And some you might not necessarily have known where they're hiding, even in South America. I don't know how potent their rock scene is, but I'm impressed to digging deeper on that too, because of Chaos Magic. They're my first entrance way in, and it was a wonderful treat to get exposed to them. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.